Let me ask you a question. Take away the beard. In theory, I know it's hard to imagine. I'm a guy in my 30s. Take away my job. I'm not a rabbi. Take away the picture that maybe my look and my job portray as a godly figure, man who talks to God all day, every day. Not true, but comes with the territory. Take it away. I'm an average guy in my 30s or 40s, early 50s. What does God mean? You don't have to be a massive researcher to ask yourself which cohort of people, which group of people are the hardest to get involved in conversations about faith and meaning and purpose. I thought it was only me. I reached out to a lot of my colleagues, and they pretty much all agreed with me that men building their careers, let's say 30 to 60 or 30 to 55, are the most difficult age to reach. And I thought about it. I'm still thinking about it. Some people might say right away, I disagree. Fair enough. I would say in the frum community, that's not true. You walk into any shul, you walk into kollel, you'll see people in their 30s and 40s learning in the morning, learning at night. I'm talking about for the typical Orthodox but secular Jew. Proud Jew, proud Zionist. But having a nice hour conversation with a rabbi or with their friend about faith is not exactly high on their priorities. The question is why? Why? What do you mean why? Why is the question? Why should they? Fair enough. But what I'm finding is often their wives are. The wives are on a journey, and they're often not. Again, it's dangerous to sit there making blanket rules. So if you feel that this is personal, please don't take it personal. I'm not having anyone in mind as I talk. I'm trying to see a general picture, and every picture has a million exceptions. But for the argument's sake, play with me. Go with me down this journey. Questioning. Let's see where it leads. Let's figure it out. I found that women are extremely involved in their Yiddishkeit. Not everybody, but disproportionately more than men. And it's not only women who are stay-at-home moms, it's employed moms, it's employed women, it's highly educated, not necessarily educated. Across the whole spectrum, there's a certain yearning. They're looking for something. Very often it's their kids and their kids' journeys that facilitate their own interest. Maybe it's their own the way they process emotions, and suddenly they realize that like they need something else in life. I don't know. But there's something that gets women passionate about Judaism. Not only in our time, it's not a 21st century issue. You think about every major crisis that the Jewish people have been through, self-made crisis. The men always cause the crisis. They sinned with the golden calf, not the woman. They didn't believe in exiting Egypt, not the woman. They sinned with Korach, not the woman. They sinned with the spies, not the woman. All the men died before they made it into Israel as adults. The women all survived. So there was a huge disproportionate amount of women, elderly women who made it in compared to men. And throughout the history, you don't have to be a feminist or look at anything with one angle to just see the facts stare at you in the eyes. Men have always been a much harder cohort of people to get them involved in religion and faith for the right reasons. And rabbis have tried lots of things throughout the history. I would say one of the big inventions is shul. I don't think it was only created for that, but there's no question that in the beginning of Judaism, there was no such a thing really as getting an aliyah, honors. And over the years, various sages instituted shul service, aliyot, and honors, and Rosh Hashanah's coming, and lots of honors there, and various positions to make people feel involved. It has been a very um, hard fought strategy to see how we could get gentlemen involved. Now, you'll sit there saying it's because we put men on a pedestal. I don't think so. Not, I don't think so. My wife doesn't think so, and neither of my sisters think so. And that's for them to say. I've always said that when it comes to defending masculinity within Judaism or defending femininity within Judaism, it's much healthier when it comes to the woman. But the point is, I don't believe, not even for a shadow of a doubt, that the men were prioritized. I think at the foundation of religion, when religion was created, it was very similar to what we're living now in COVID. And that is home. It was a temple. Fine. Kohanim served over there. But the most part, Judaism was in the home. And in the home, the woman dominates. Kosher, Shabbos, family purity, the aura of the home, the center of the home. She's the home. The woman is called the foundation of the home. Then we came up with a lot of add-ons. Shul, services, committees, leaderships, and all these kinds of stuff. And try to get men involved with very mixed success, if you're honest about it. I would call it mixed success throughout history. Now, you might sit there saying, hey, Judaism has survived and it's just fine even without it. I don't know. I wonder how richer Judaism would be if we didn't only have youngsters, women, and retired men fully involved in Jewish life, coming to shul, coming into shiurim. I wonder what it would look like. And I'm pretty convinced it would be so enriched. I believe every cohort, every group of people enriches the community. And I was talking to a group of elderly gentlemen this morning, and we were talking, you always, the past few months, many of us are just trying to find what's the message of COVID. Not the message, because there's no the message. There definitely is, but we don't know it. But what's a message? And for me, what I feel one of the big messages of COVID is to get gentlemen back. What do I mean? It's a humbling experience. We're all struggling financially, some more than others. None of us are where we were 6 months ago. We're all trying to make sense of things. Our world is turned upside down. And not only men, but it's an awakening call, not necessarily to get closer to God, but to get closer to ourselves, to just look inward. See, excuse the gender classification, but in general, women look inward and men look outward. When men talk, it's all about stuff outside, business, sport. Women usually talk about themselves and their feelings and their experiences. We look outward. So my question to you is, you the man, fine, my age, a little older. I know that you believe that when you're 65, you're going to come back. Once you're retired, you'll have time. Deep down, you believe in God. Deep down, you know that there's a lot of truth to what we do. But your life is busy. You're working 12-hour days, trying to stay fit, trying to manage a family, trying to make your wife happy, trying to raise your kids. You have a lot going on. Fair enough. But when? When is that time? 65, once our kids are out of the house. It's in many ways too late to really influence them in a substantive manner. Why wait? Are you waiting to train your body till then? No, because you realize that if you want your body then solid, then you need to train now. What about our souls? What about our knowledge? What about our connection? On the contrary, it's when we're stressed out in our lives with family issues, monetary issues, etc. It's then that we need faith more than ever. It's then that we need to nurture our faith. There's a great story of a sage, a rabbi, who one time walked over to a fellow. And he says, "Sir, we haven't seen you in shul in a long time." And he says, "Rabbi, truth? Between me and you, truth? I just don't have time. Just don't. Can I show you my schedule? Look." And the rabbi says, "Why do you work so hard?" He says, "I do it for the sake of my children." So the rabbi says, "Let me tell you something very interesting. 30 years ago, I was a young rabbi, just started my career, and your dad was a member here in the community. And your dad also didn't come to shul too often. I asked your dad, I said, 'Jack, when are you going to come to shul, please?' He says, 'Rabbi, I have to work so hard for my kids.' And 60 years ago, I heard from the former rabbi that your grandfather said the exact same thing. So I'm wondering, if everybody's sacrificing their faith for the kids, who's that kid who's going to get all the benefit? In other words, where's that final kid for who generations have sacrificed their own faith for, to raise that amazing kid?" Yes, look, cost of living is expensive. And because the cost of living is expensive, you don't only need to supply them with money, we need to give our kids faith. Not only for the cost of living, but to live. There's no question that faith makes this entire time more meaningful, more bearable, more grounding, to know that there's a creator who's managing, but not in esoteric, abstract forms, a God, my God. But that doesn't happen by just, I feel connected. By women, it often does. That's why we're told that Judaism comes through the woman. Why does the woman give Judaism to the kids, not the man? Because by the woman, the faith is ingrained. And because faith is at the heart of Judaism, so therefore Judaism comes through the woman. The dad could be Jewish, but if the mom's not Jewish, the kids aren't Jewish. The other way around, the kids are Jewish, 100%. Because the mom gives Judaism just by her being, her faith. So for men, it's hard. For us guys, it's harder. I often ask myself, if I wasn't a rabbi, what would I be? Would I be interested? Because chances are, had I gone into my career, I would have gone into psychology or sociology. I would go into one of the humanities. I'd be building up a career, trying to create a nest egg. And I'm trying to imagine if somebody walks over to me and says, Levi, religion's important. You should. So first of all, I would say, hey, plug off. Pause. Pause, no thank you. Rabbi, you're coming across judgmental. I'm trying not to, but you are. Don't you know what I'm going through? I don't. Well, Rabbi, when I have time, and when things settle down, I'll find time for shul and community and learning. I could see myself saying that. In other words, it makes sense. The more I think about it, I get it. It's not like, oh my gosh, what a shock. You've discovered the big secret of the universe, that men building their career are a tough group of people to, get them to sit and focus and study every single day Torah. I get it. But that doesn't justify it. And it's not just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's right. And I'm not talking about right because what God says, right because of what we need. We need faith. Running around the rat race of life trying to make a living, you need grounding. You need principles. You need a deeper narrative. You need a story. You need a why. A why. Why? It's not only about making money so that you could support your kids and then leave an inheritance and then have a good name. It's not the why of life. That's a nice detail of life, but that's not the why. There's a why. Judaism, for me, for you, offers a why. Now, You might say, Rabbi, I've given Judaism a try. I went to school. I went to Jewish school. I was introduced to the Chagim. I still eat kichel and herring, and I have knedlach. But honestly, Judaism, like, it's not much of a why. True. It's true, because a big part of what we're taught of Judaism is not the why. It's the practicals. It's the sentimental stuff. It's the feel-goody stuff. But ultimately, most people, when they're going through a real challenge in their life, don't think that Judaism will have the answers. But Judaism has the answers. It is the answer. It's God's manual for living. It's what God created for you and I, a manual, a way how to live. We need to adapt it. We need to bring it into our lives. And I'm saying, gentlemen, dear friends, you need this. This doesn't mean what I'm offering, any of those specific books, but somewhere in Torah, there is answers to your questions. Or better yet, there are questions that you need to answer. Because some of us don't even have questions. Life's good or not. My team won, I'm happy. My team lost, I'm not happy. I did well economically this month, I'm happy. I didn't do so well, I'm not happy. What about the questions? Like, why? What's the point of all of this? Doesn't that bother you? Doesn't that drive you insane? What do you do when that question comes? Because it has to come. It's within you. It's within me. Do I drink it away? Do I work it away? Do I cry it away? Do I exercise it away? What do I do with this underlying anxious question that is begging to surface to ask, what's the point of all of this? Why? Why do we do this? Why in the world do we do this, friends? There's a fascinating part of this week's parsha that I want to tell you. The story goes the following. At some stage, the Jewish people are not yet in Israel, they're living in the desert. And they arrive the eastern side of the Jordan River. Israel's the western side of the Jordan River, so they basically just have to cross a river. And they find a area, a piece of land that is just absolutely magnificent and beautiful. So 2.5 tribes, the tribe of Reuven and Gad and half the Manasseh, they want to stay. They want to stay in this part of the land. They feel it's better for them. At some stage, they turn to Moshe and they use the following words. We want to build a place for our children. Sorry, they don't say it that way. We're going to build places for our sheep and our cattle, and then we'll build houses for our children, and then we'll join you in war to fight for the land on the eastern side of the Jordan, and then we'll come back to this side. Moshe Rabbeinu says, he's not so happy with their call, but eventually he agrees. But when he responds to him, he says, first you'll build houses for your kids, and then you'll build, pens for your animals. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu didn't like what he heard. What did he hear? He heard them putting the animals, in other words, their business, as a priority. And he says, no, that's not what I want. I'm actually looking as I speak to you to find this part of the Torah, because I just think it's so important. So important. Here he says, build yourself cities for your children and enclosures for your sheep, and what has preceded you in your mouth shall you do. Because they had said the opposite. They had said, we want to build sheepfolds for our livestock and cities for our children. Now you might say, big deal, which one they said first. No, these guys were saying a point. They were saying, We want place for our animals and then our children. Even Rashi, the foremost commentator, and says they were more concerned about their possessions than their sons and daughters, since they mentioned their livestock before their children. And Moses turns to them and says, not so. Treat the fundamental as a fundamental and the matter of secondary importance as a matter of secondary importance. First, build sites for your children, cities for your children, and afterwards, enclosures for your sheep. That's what Rashi says. I quote it verbatim. Do you hear what he's saying? But I want to give a good life for my kids. So build them a house. What does a house mean? A house of value, something that's going to accompany them. The car you buy them that you worked so hard so you could afford to buy them a nice car, it's not going to last in them. It's nice. It's not going to last. It not necessarily will even make them a nicer person. Maybe make them a little appreciative, maybe not. But the values you give them, the time that you offer to give them values, the time that you offer to make religion and faith a part of the fundamental of your home, that's going to pay back dividends big time. Because it's an anchor. It's a sense of belonging. I know where I come from. I have a why. My kids are still young. I pray every day that they resonate with what I resonate even more. That God becomes as much theirs as it is mine and even more. But I know one thing. Ultimately, it's in God's hand how they turn out and their choices. But I have to do the best I can to be a role model, specifically to my sons, to my daughters as well, but specifically to my sons, of what a Jewish man looks like in his 20s, in his 30s, in his 40s, in his 50s, in times of stress, in times of success, in times when we're riding the wave high, in times when we're riding the wave low. Because whether they're looking at me or not, they're living it with me. And that is becoming their first port of entry when they become adults. The only 30-year-old man they knew inside out is me. And the only 40-year-old man they knew will be me. And I'll be their go-to guy in their own frame of reference. What does a guy look like? I can have a huge impact on my kids. And I hope I do a positive one. And yes, my kids will also learn from me that I make mistakes and that I'm human and I'm imperfect. And I really, really struggle. And I have darkness. I'm a human being. But at the same time, they'll see that in their darkness, you could also have clarity. You could also have values. They'll see me trying to fight up because I know where north is. And even if I'm not living in north all the time, I sometimes don't live up to the standards I believe in. They know where I'm heading. They know which ladder I'm climbing or trying to climb. That's what God wants from me. I'm not doing a perfect job. But all I can say to my friends and to all men, women as well, but I'm specifically talking to men, raising families. These years matter. Not only for the nest egg that you're going to have, not only for the retirement annuity that you're going to have, not only for the investments you'll have, and not only for the quality of life you'll have, and not only for the health you'll have, for the values you have. Because you see, religion is not one of the priorities in life. It's not like I have health, I have wealth, I have family, and I have Judaism. Judaism is you. It's like saying, I am one of my priorities. No, I am the priority. Not in a selfish way, but I first and foremost have to take care of myself. And Judaism is me. It's my inner core. It's the me. It's the voice inside of me that will be there with me every single day. After 4 months of this nonsense of COVID, and I say nonsense because it's challenging, it's difficult, I acknowledge it. Friends, we need to dig deep. We can't only look outward. It's not only about Chelsea or Man United. It's not only about the stock exchange. It's not only about business. It's not even only about the paycheck. It's about why. Why am I here? What was the reason I was born? Was it simple biology? Was I just put here by a mistake of biology? Or did God, by design, put me here for a reason? And the reason is something I have to discover, but it's not outside of me. It's inside of me. Moses, just before he passes away, he says this mitzvah, in other words, this Judaism, is not far. It's not across the ocean. It's not across the mountain. It's not in the heavens. Lo bashamayim, it's not in the heavens. Ki karav elecha, it's close to you. Hadavar ma'od, very close. The peace is very close. That thing is very close. Beficha, in your mouth, it's close for you to are able to articulate it. Bilvavcha, it's close for you to feel it. La sosa, and to do it. It's close. The answers and the questions are here, not there. Not even, I'm not the question. I'm not the answer. You are the question and you are your answer. Go ask a question. Not as an interesting intellectual exercise, but as a question that will change your life. Why me? God, what am I here for? What is the purpose of life? What role am I here to play? Ask that question. It will change your life. Because if you ask a question with all your heart, and you ask a question with all sincerity, and you ask a question because you want the answer, not as an intellectual curiosity, but because your life depends on it, a good question could change your life. I know in my life that a few of the questions that have been thrown in my face have changed my life. And please God will continue to. What's your question? What's the question that will trigger you? What's the question that will put you on a road to yourself? What will make your eyes look inward and your heart beat? Whatever that question is, I wish you good luck in finding it. And I wish you good luck in answering it. And if there's anything I could do, I would be honored to be there. God bless you. Thank you so much.